That's all that matters. Really. Thing here. Forgot mine. I got out of the car and realized I forgot my cell phone. I feel liberated.
Don't make me laugh. My glasses fall down.
I know. Let's call the meeting to order. Mary Ellen, can you call the roll, please?
Here.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Coles is here.
Here. Not a problem.
Here.
Hammersley is here. I did hear from Commissioner Gwark, Locks, Albanese, and Coviello. They won't be able to join us tonight. Despite that, we do have a quorum. We will sit Commissioner Coles in place of Commissioner Locks. And with that, I'd ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting on September 7th, 2021.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion for Commissioner Salka. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Coles with a second. Any discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 7 on the agenda, item 7A. I believe this is a table, Mary Ellen? Do we need a motion on that? Well, you don't think, well, let's get a motion. Can I get a motion to table item 7A, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We table SPU 651, agenda item A.
Commissioner Salka with a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Wolowski with a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items tabled. Item 7B, Carol and Gilman Albert petition to change the zoning district boundary from I-1 to R-2025, property located at 144 Pine Street, zone change 572. The public hearing is continued from September 7th. Mr. and Mrs. Albert, or just Mrs. Albert?
Well, I'm not sure.
If you could just start with your name and your address.
Oh, Carol Albert. My address is 631 West Center Street, Southington, and we own the property at 144 Pine Street in Plantsville.
Okay. So I think last time maybe we talked a little bit about what you want to do out there, right? Are you aware of the letter that we received from the town's economic development director?
No. Did you people get my email?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So the letter from Lou Perello, who's the town economic development director, was dated September 14th. It is posted on our website under meeting documents. And essentially, if I can surmise what his point is, and Mary Ellen or Jim, feel free to jump in if I do a bad job. It won't be the first time. Was that he thought that it might be better for you to go to ZBA to get a variance on that property as opposed to asking us to change it from an industrial zone. And let me give you a little bit of background real quick. Industrial zones tend to be very lucrative in our town and not ones that we like to give up easily. We had a situation 2 years ago out on Curtis Street, for example, where they were asking for the same thing that you're asking for. And the reason they were doing that is that the person who was occupying the industrial zone was not being very nice. Starting up motors at 2 o'clock in the morning, doing all kinds of stuff, removed the barriers, that are required. There's a 50-foot barrier required when you're abutting a residential zone. We didn't end up passing that because we didn't want to give up our industrial zone in that property. And we lean heavily on the plan of conservation and development, which designates what is zoned what. And this property, just like other properties in that area, is zoned as industrial. So I just will throw that out to you. I mean, it's up to you on what you want to do, but
Sure.
just one second, Peter. Did I do a fair enough job, Mary Ellen and Jim? Do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
No? Commissioner Santiago might have
So
something.
what the chair says, it's an alternate way so that you still get what you desire. So right now you have what's called a non-conforming use. You could go to board and say, I just want to continue the non-conforming use to build another residential structure, a different residential structure. And I think Mr. Lou Pearl also says that this commission can provide a letter of support to the zoning or repeal saying that, which I would agree.
Yep.
Hopefully the other commissioners agree to do. So it's a different solution to your issue. Like, you don't have to give up a zone. That did not have to happen to do this. You would simply get a different non-conforming use. So you still get a residential structure on that property. The zone that got to change. It's just you talk to different people to go get that, to make that happen. Is that reasonable to you?
Yeah, but where are these people? I don't know. What
So
this-
the zoning board of appeals, their job is to hear cases where you have to demonstrate a hardship. And by that, as Peter said, you can say, I just want to, you're currently a non-conforming use on that property. But you can say, I just want to continue that. I just want to build another house on the property or another dwelling on the property for, whoever, my daughter or my son or whoever it might be to live in. And, as Peter offered, and I'm happy to support something like that as well, we could write a letter on your behalf just saying that you came to us after further discussion and review, including discussion with Lou Perillo. It's our suggestion that you go to ZBA and they approve your application. In terms of who they are, they're a group of people that are appointed by town leaders. I don't know when they meet, but Mary Ellen's office, our town planner sitting over there, she certainly can help you with the logistics of getting that done if that's a path that you chose to take.
Okay.
And so you would withdraw this application and then you would apply to ZBA.
There's a form to withdraw it?
Is there a form to withdraw? I don't think so. I think you just put it on the,
To do what?
You can send an email, just
Oh.
withdrawing your application to me.
Oh, okay. All
Mr.
right.
Chair,
so,
when
yep,
when you get,
Commissioner Wolowski, go ahead.
just to expand on what the other gentlemen are saying, is that the concern would be that any change made would be permanent. This way, the change is made for you and you specifically and doesn't transfer with the property.
So say we sell the property, somebody wants to build on it. Is that possible? A residence?
So if you get a variance from the ZBA, you can do whatever you apply for in that variance. So in this case, let's say you want to put another structure there for your daughter, right? You could do that. If you pass a property on to your daughter and they decide they want to put another building on there, they would have to go back to ZBA again and get another variance for that.
And supposing down the line, that person wants to sell the property to another homeowner, buyer.
So those structures would be non-conforming uses, but they're not prohibited. They're just non-conforming uses.
It's fine.
So they're allowed to stay. Nothing's going to change on that front.
Right.
But
Right.
it stays I-1 for the
Yeah,
town?
Yes.
But you can
All
still, you still use it as a residence. We have non-conforming use in different aspects around town on different properties about this, like a grandfather type thing.
Ah,
I'm using that term incorrectly, but sort of
Okay.
as a, way to understand.
All right, then.
So Mrs. Albert, if I remember correctly, you want to tear the structure down that's there now, right?
Well, that's one of the things we were considering.
Right, and you want to build another structure or maybe another 2 structures, let's say.
Well, probably just a single-family home.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem as chairman of planning and zoning, and, you know, we can look for a motion along these lines to have the commission write a letter on your behalf in support of your application to ZBA. They're a separate body though, so they're going to take it up under themselves, and they're going to do whatever they're going to do.
And they have meetings like you do, and
Yeah.
we'd have to
Yes.
appear?
Same
I think
thing.
they meet, Mary Ellen, once a month,
No, twice,
twice? Okay,
twice a month.
okay. I think they're on alternate weeks from us.
Yeah, they're on alternate weeks from us.
So it'd be the second and fourth Tuesday
Yeah.
of every month they would meet.
Till next week.
Mr. Chairman, just a comment.
Okay.
Commissioner Salka.
Just when you come before the ZBA, make sure, number one, they're going to ask, you have to have a hardship. So you'll need to understand and articulate what you really have as a hardship, number one. And number two is as we were talking and discussing, you were saying you might tear down the house. I think you need to be more definitive on what it is you want to do. Otherwise, they're going to grant something that, you know, they may not know what you want to do in the future. I would go to them, number one, with a hardship. Number two, to identify what it is you actually want to do with that property.
Good point. And Commissioner Salka, Commissioner Wolowski sat on ZBA for a number of years, so they're talking from the inside. Mary Ellen, would you be willing to help Miss Albert in her application just to make sure that it's clear to what she's looking to do there? Could you lend her a hand and just sit down with her or whoever she designates as a person to talk to and just work with her on the application if that's a path that she decides to do? Now, having said all that, Mrs. Albert, the decision's yours. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm just saying, based on the letter that we have, it seems like a logical alternative for you to follow.
Well, it seems like it's the only option then, right?
You can continue to have your application here. I mean, I don't know where it's going to go, but I know that for myself, I'm reluctant to give up on our industrial zoned area. And simply put, once it's gone, it's gone. You never get it back again. And you lose the opportunity to utilize that in the way that industrial zones are typically used.
Okay, well then, if you would write the letter.
Okay.
I'd
Well,
appreciate
let me just take the temperature of the group and we'll see where that goes. And I think it's going to go in your favor. If I'm a betting man, that's where I would go. But is there any objection from any member of the commission on us writing a letter in support of Mrs. Albert's application to ZBA? There you
No.
go. So I didn't hear any. So,
Just make sure that the letter is not intended that we approve it. We're just saying that we're forwarding it to the ZBA for their determination. Is that correct?
and I think would respectfully request that they approve her application
Yeah.
for the uses outlined.
Okay.
Yeah. As Lou said, may provide a letter of support for the owner
Okay.
of replacement of that. So I think it,
But just, my concern is that when the letter of support, that we know what we're supporting. Meaning, they're more definitive on what they're going
Yeah.
to do with that property. Otherwise, we're saying support, but we don't know what we're supporting other than.
So I think in terms of steps, I think that she works with town staff to
Agreed.
develop an application, which I think is going to be what you said. You're going to tear down that structure, build another structure there, a one-family house, probably bigger if I had to guess. And then we would write a letter that, you came before us. Our suggestion was follow the suggestion of the town's economic development director, that she applied to ZBA for variance on that action, and that the Planning and Zoning Commission at its meeting on September 21st supported her doing so.
Mr. Chair?
And not intended, by the way, to tell ZBA what they should or shouldn't do. It's just saying that that was the discussion, just sort of putting it on record that that was a discussion here. Commissioner Wolowski.
I would believe the applicant should see the letter, as well as the letter should be forwarded to the ZBA so that they see what Lou has written and
Yeah.
what his opinion on the matter is.
So Mrs. Albert, the letter, I'll give you my copy if you want it, but the letter, oh, there you go. The letter is on our website under meeting documents.
Okay, thank you.
So how about, why don't we do this? Why don't we table this for now? And in the next 2 weeks, you can have a conversation with town staff, see where that goes. All right? Does that sound right? And then we'll see where you are 2 weeks from now. And if you decide that that's the path you want to go, we'll go that path. If not, then we'll pick up the public hearing where it left off.
That sounds
Might
good.
that
already
sound-
be decided by the time.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
Would there be a time limit on how, how soon we'd have to start, tear down and build up and, no.
There's no time limit on variances, is there?
Unless they
There is.
stipulated something, but if you would work that out with the ZBA.
I think it's a year.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Volpe?
I think what the chair is saying is that over these next 2 weeks, we'll leave it open so that you can comprehensively get a better idea of your questions and things like that. And then if you don't want to proceed with what our advice is this evening, you can come back and we can pretty much start from square one. But
Right.
it sounds to me, based off of Mr. Perillo's letter, that this actually may be a more beneficial route for you to go.
All right,
So hopefully that help. I think it helped. I think it will help.
thank you.
Yeah, I know it's a lot to digest, and for somebody who maybe isn't used to this environment, it might be a little overwhelming. So I'm not intending to try to ask you to drink water out of a fire hose and agree to do that. I want to give you the time to deliberate about it and think about it and talk to your counsel about what you want to do. Are you okay with that?
Neighbors that wanted to express their opinion, would you want to hear them?
No, I mean, they're welcome to. The public hearing is going to remain open. So, but if the neighbors want to step up, so why don't we open it up to anyone who wants to talk on behalf of the application? Go ahead. Just give us your name and your address, please.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Karras. Address is 9 Union Street in Plantsville. And I'm here because my property is directly next to the property that we're talking about that Carol and Gil own. My backyard is adjacent to the property. So when I look at the back of my house through my windows, the property's right there. I've lived in my home for 24 years. Carol and Gil are the third owners. 2 other owners were homeowners. The property, when I purchased my property, was zoned commercial and residential. And somewhere along the line, it got switched to commercial. And I just wanted to speak to the fact that this is a very residential neighborhood. Even the way that Carol and Gil kept the property, it looks like a home, doesn't look like a business, even though it was used for, for business purposes. To have somebody come in and put like light industrial back there would be extremely disruptive to the neighborhood when thinking about the options that could go in there in terms of noise, in terms of traffic. There's little kids in the neighborhood. It's a big concern for me. So when I knew that Carol and Gil were selling and they wanted to switch it to residential zoning, I'm in full support of that because I can't imagine anything else being there but a house, quite honestly. And from a homeowner's perspective, with the thought of selling my home, which could happen in the next few years, if there was a business directly in back of my house, and I have a very narrow backyard, like literally the property, I could throw a stone and it would be on that property. It would be a very big concern of mine and my ability to sell the home if I had some kind of commercial business back there and what it would do to the property value. So I felt the need to come to the meeting today just to kind of share my experience and concern for the neighborhood that, having a home back there would really be, in my mind, the only option because I can't imagine a business being in my backyard with what could go in there. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, Michelle. Any questions for Ms. Karras?
Nope.
No? Thanks for coming out.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Robert Witowski, 23 Union Street. I live right next door to Michelle, and my property checkerboards to that property, right up to it. And it's pretty much a carbon copy of what she said. I've been there through 4 owners in that house, and I didn't even know it was commercial zoned. It's been quiet, and I'd like to see it stay that way. And a new house going up would be great. You know, I don't think commercial fits the neighborhood at all. Definitely not. I mean, everybody keeps everything well kept up around there, and it is kind of like a dead end road right there, so the traffic would be in and out constantly. Something like that was to happen. I would like to see it go residential all the way with no commercial at all.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Thanks for coming out.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Coles?
I guess this is more of a question on, I guess, format. Would it, and to my colleagues who were on ZBA, could the neighbors make an argument for hardship? So I'm just kind of shaping from this conversation to what might happen in the next few weeks with the applicant. Taking into consideration what we've heard from public comment, could that be melded into their request? Or have you seen something like that?
My experience has been, and Bob, you can answer to that, non-conforming lots are generally a little bit easier to not push through, but get approved. Would you agree with that, Bob?
Yes.
So they've got that in their favor, and I think that the town planner, the economic development director, Lou, with the letter from us, it seems like a reasonable request, but I believe that that's probably the best way to go.
Yeah, there's also public comment in that.
There's
forum.
support for it, and I think that the ZBA would take everything into account and not stand in the way.
Another brick. There you go. Thank you.
All right, so I think we're going to table this for tonight, and can we just get a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we table ZC 572.
So I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner
Give it to Gail.
Santiago, I already gave it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, okay. Thanks, Mr. and Mrs. Albert, good to see you again. No offense, but I hope we don't see you in 2 weeks. Because that would mean you're going the path, right?
Means you're
So
done.
maybe somewhere else other than here, but item 7C, Matt Oliga, I killed that one, 9-lot re-subdivision application, property located at 181 West Queen Street, property owned by Southington Land Associates in an I-1 zone. This is S1328. Public hearing was continued from September 7th. Matt, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Sev, how are you?
Good.
So while Sev is setting up, Matt, I have a question for you. How is the Southington Land Associates located in Torrington?
Our business is in Torrington.
Oh, okay.
So, we're part of the LLC that owns Southington Land.
Yeah, okay. Mary Ellen, while we're waiting, do we have outstanding comments on this application still, or were we able to get those responses before press time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, close that.
Sev, you've been to this rodeo a couple times.
Yeah, I did it. What's the next step now? I thought I was supposed to go to. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay, thank you.
We got Jim Grappone, PE, on lights tonight. And who told you your education would amount to nothing?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. Sev Bovino, planner with Kratz and Jones and Associates, representing the applicant. I hope you can hear me.
So let's get close to that mic there, please.
The property is,
Can I just say something, please? I've been a member of this board for a while, and I'm not trying to single you out, sir, but I'm hearing impaired. I know Mr. Salka struggles. We ask you every meeting to please speak up. You really need to speak up, because otherwise we can't hear you, and it's not fair to us. And it's not fair to you to have us keep asking.
yeah. I appreciate that. I cannot hear that well either, so I understand. I'm speaking, you cannot hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, okay. My name is Sev Bovino. I was struggling to do a start, and Sev Bovino, planner with Kratz Jones and Associates, representing the applicant. The property is located on West Queen Street. The address is currently is 181 West Queen Street, just west of Redstone Drive. For orientation purposes, this is West Queen Street. North is to the right. Redstone Drive is in this area here. The property is about 27 acres of I-1 zone, served by public water and sewer. The property slopes from the west to the east into the old canal. That's almost in the first quarter section of the property, and then eventually drains into a tributary of the Quinnipiac River, which is at this location here. The proposal before you, this project was approved by the Wetlands Commission a while ago, so we have a wetlands approval. The Wetlands Commission has stipulated that we will have sidewalks on one side of the property, on one side of the road, because the canal is at this location. They didn't want anybody getting near the canal. They wanted to preserve this area. As a matter of fact, we are proposing a conservation easement for the entire area here to be retained. So that area gets kept in its natural state. And a plaque will be installed in a couple of locations on the west side of the canal. The proposal is for 9 industrial lots. The lot size varies from 1.17 acres to 5.28 acres, which is this large piece here. We proposed multiple detention areas for this project because the way the topography is and the way the lots are spread out through the property. One detention area is as you enter the project on the right side of the road. And then one detention area is here on the northeast corner, and this other one is on the southeast corner. This application was reviewed by the staff, and comments were provided. We responded to comments, made changes to the map to address those concerns. There were some questions about details on the plan, things of that nature, notations, pavement sections, and other questions that they had. We responded to those questions, and they are reflected on the map. At this point, I would, the roadway is 900 feet long. And then there's a common driveway at this location here serving the various lots. So this is private. The town road ends at this location. It's about 900 feet. The sanitary sewer line will only be a town-owned line from West Green Street to the cul-de-sac. The rest will be private sewer line. And same thing with water services. The public line will stop here, and then we'll have the private service there. For your information, these buildings and parking areas are shown here for examples to show you what could go there. But they have to come back on every lot. Once you approve this is a subdivision request, a re-subdivision. Once you approve this, we would have to come back. Let's say they want to build on this lot. We have to create a site plan for this to bring it before you for approval. So there'll be an opportunity for you at that time to have additional questions and comments on it. Because we don't know exactly what building size, what the use is going to be, but we've shown these potential buildings so to show you how many we can get on there. If you have any questions at this time, I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions from Commissioner Santiago?
Yeah, so Seb, so since it's a re-subdivision, what is it now? So you're requesting 9 spots, right?
9 building lots, yeah.
9 building lots. So what is it right now?
It's one piece of property,
That zone is
I-1.
that's zoned I-1.
Yes,
And so you want to divide it in 9 spots,
9 lots.
9 lots. So it's one big property, zone that way. You're keeping the zone, but you're saying, I want 9 spaces in it. That's our
right.
decision,
That's
right?
The requirements is 40,000 square feet in this zone, and we have over 40,000 square feet for each lot.
Yep.
As I stated, one is 1.17 acres, the other is a larger, one is 5.28 acres.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we're doing, and I don't know why it's a re-subdivision, to tell you the truth. That was determined years ago that was to be a re-subdivision. It is one piece of property.
Yeah.
Has been that way for a long time. But I think at one time maybe it was the remnants of land to the west that was subdivided, and maybe the planner at that time determined that this had to be a re-subdivision versus a continuation of that subdivision. So, and that's why we follow the procedure that was followed before.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think if I had a concern against a site plan would be all the water, but we can't, if wetlands said it's fine, then we can't consider that because they've already said it's okay.
Yeah, the lots are well placed all
Yeah, no,
across the property.
I think it's a beautiful looking property. I think
there's a lot of
it's done, it's a nice
separation.
industrial park.
There's a lot of separation, and we have a lot of big conservation easement right here.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity for the employees to come and enjoy the canal there. It's still in good condition from this point up to here, and then there's a breach in there, and the water just runs down to the brook here. So the canal is in good shape from here to here, but after that, it doesn't exist.
Okay, so all we're doing tonight is saying, can we divide this one piece of property into 9 spots?
That's correct.
Gotcha. Thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
Any other questions from members of the commission? Commissioner Coles?
Good evening. So if broken up, would each individual parcel, and it might be noted in here, but if you could just summarize, if broken up, would the individual parcels have runoff that would go into that canal space each independently?
The runoff goes into the detention. It goes into the roadway system. We have a drainage system in the roadway. Then that drainage system goes into the detention area and then eventually into the canal.
So they're all brought together into the detention area and then off into the canal?
Yes, the water is treated, and we will have, the siltation basin there. We have a storm scepter to catch additional silt, so the canal will be well protected.
Clarify one thing.
Please.
It's just the 3.
Matt, can you just identify yourself? Speaking to the mic. Speaking to the mic, please.
Matt O'Nelia with the ownership. The point about the water running into the detention and the canal is just for the western properties, not the eastern, larger properties. It's just those 3.
And so, I'll just follow up then. Then the other properties, again, from the larger ones split down, the runoff from those would go into a different area,
Different areas. We have 3 separate detention areas. These
highlighted
two
by those
lots,
dark spaces.
these 2 lots will drain into this one, and these other 2 lots will drain into this other 3 lots will drain into this larger detention area. So each one has its own watershed, so to speak, and they will be going into detention areas before discharging into the brook at this location here. There's an overflow structure on the east side of the detention area with a flared end and riprap, and then eventually flows into the river, into the brook there.
I was, with all these applications, you've heard me give this shtick before, that I always look at the GIS, and it's really hard to identify the brook and there's a lot of canopy there, obviously. So I'm trying to kind of take that and plug it into what I see in front of me, and it's a little challenging, but.
Yeah, this is the brook right here. This is the canal at this location. What you see here, this is a wetland area that's dispersed through the property. But the land pitches from west to east generally in this direction.
Good. Thank you, Seth.
Yeah.
Any other questions from members of the commission? One question for me, Sev. To the west side of that property, what is that? Is that zoned industrial as well, or is that zoned residential?
Which property?
To the west.
Yes, this is all industrial. It goes all the way to the water
Okay,
department.
okay.
It's all, and goes to the north. It's all industrial. Same thing to the east.
Okay. No other questions? All right. Let's open it up to the public and see if they have anything. Thanks. Any members of the public like to testify on this application, please approach the mic and identify. Going twice. I see none. Zev, anything to add? Matt, anything to add? Any reason to keep this public hearing open? Seeing no objection, we will close the public hearing on this. Moving on to item 8A, which is a table. We don't need another motion now, Mary Ellen, right?
Yeah.
I don't need another motion to table this one, okay.
No, we do.
So item 8A and B are tabled. Don't go so far. 8C, Matt O'Neillia, 9-lot re-subdivision application, property located at 181 West Queen Street, property owned by Southington Land Associates in an I-1 zone, S1328. This was tabled from September 7th. Any discussion? Any motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We approve S 1328.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Coles with a second. Any discussion?
Generally, Mr. Chairman, just generally, I like the layout of the property. And even though there seems to be quite a bit of wetlands there, but it's been approved by the Wetlands Commission. And it's just I like the layout. It's a nice looking
That
layout.
looks great. Looks
So,
beautiful.
Jim Grappone down there,
Thank you.
I heard a rumor earlier that you were looking at the pond out front. I just want to make sure that you're satisfied that this is ready.
Yeah, the applicant has addressed all engineering comments, but there is a concern with the location of the front pond as it relates to the proximity of the street. You may recall a number of years back, the subdivision regulations for residential development got changed with respect to no ponds being in the front yard. This is an industrial subdivision, and it was submitted prior to and it expired, and now it's being reapplied. So we'd like to work with the developer and his engineer. We think it could work a little bit, maybe some reshaping, maybe some underground storage, but there is a little bit of a concern. We think we can make it work. That's the only issue. They've addressed all our other comments.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Would the maker of the motion, Commissioner Salka, would you be amenable to amending your motion that they work with the town engineering department to address the concerns?
Yes.
So we have an amended motion. Do we have an amended second?
Amended.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Jim, thanks for your comments. Mary Ellen, you want to call the roll, please?
Commissioner Volpe is a yes.
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Coles, yes.
Yes.
Hammersley is a yes. Motion passes 6-0. Congratulations. Item 8D is a table, correct? We need a motion on that. Let's get a motion on that. Can I get a motion to table item 8D?
Mr. Chair, make a motion, will you table 8D?
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sure. Wolowski with a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 8E, Diane L. Kelly, care of Jeffrey Mazzacati, site plan application for proposed addition with home office and 4 parking spaces, property located at 1506 West Street in a WSB zone, SPR 1827. This was tabled from September 7th.
You have one between four.
We tabled that one. Yeah.
1506.
Steve, did you come out for no reason?
No, I think gotta switch drives.
Okay, you're on 1506. Steve, while you're setting that up, Mary Ellen, on this one, just to remind the commission and members of the public, we asked Mary Ellen to look at the registration status on this property on the historical register. And Mary Ellen, you want to give us a brief synopsis on what you found there?
Actually, the applicant came into the office following your last meeting and provided documentation regarding the registration and some emails back and forth between him and the state. Essentially, what the answer ended up being was that the property, I was actually looking for the state's email. So this is directly from Jenny Scoville with SHPO. She said the property is on the state register and was determined eligible for the National Register listing, but the keeper, the National Park Service, in 1989, by the keeper, however, was not listed on the National Register due to owner objection at the time. It is included in a thematic nomination for Colonial Houses of Southington. Commissioner will be able to a little bit more. But essentially, it is on the state registry, but it's not national.
Okay, before we turn to Christina, Steve, I think that you presented at the last meeting.
Actually, Mr.
So I don't know if you have any, go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Mazzacott, I think, presented. I wasn't able to be here, but I promised him I'd be here tonight. So,
Okay.
So I am here.
So let me ask you this, Steve.
Yes.
Do you have anything new to present tonight that wasn't presented last time?
I just to present that we, for the record, Stephen Judas with Harry Cole and Son 876 South Main Street, Plantsville. Just that we did address all the staff comments. I did speak, however, with Mr. Grappone today about the request for a sightline easement at the corner. The applicant doesn't have any issues granting the town of Stellington a sightline easement, so we could see past that intersection. And I just wanted to point out that the existing house is proposed to remain intact. If anything, they bought the property because of the historic home, and if you notice, the addition is behind the house. So, there's no intent to extinguish this property. If anything, it's to display it and use it as a home office, but something that they're going to take a lot of pride in and bring back to its former glory, I would say. So that's what I have to
Steve,
add.
could you just point to where the existing house is up there? Is it the
Existing house
light
is
tan?
right up here.
Yeah, okay.
And right now you can't see it because there's a big fence right in front of
Yep.
it, most of it. But that's to remain, and then the addition is to the backside. So
And are you actually attaching, or is the plan to attach the addition onto the existing structure?
just along the back wall, right here.
Just on one side of the 4 walls, right?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it. We think that when this is done, you'll be happy with it.
Okay. Let's go to Commissioner Volpe
proud of it.
first.
No, please, Commissioner Salka, go ahead.
Well, my only question, you said there's going to be no structural changes to that that building?
I mean, it's still going to be historic. It's going to have the same clapboard. We're not proposing to side it or anything like that. It's going to have all the historic features that it has now will remain.
Okay. So if we made a motion, we were to stipulate that you would retain the historic look and feel of the home,
Yeah,
you wouldn't have a problem with that?
I don't think so.
Well, to the best of our ability.
Right. I think that it's a slippery slope. The reason we're here is because we're proposing a home occupation business use in a business zone. So I want to get too hung up on even though it's historic and we respect the historic value of it, I don't know if this is the place to stipulate the historic requirements of the property. That would be my spiel on that. You know what I mean? I think that Mr. Mascott bought the property because of the historic nature of it, and he takes a lot of pride in the history of the property, and he wants to. It's been kind of neglected. If you look at it, it's been unoccupied for quite some time, and his intent is to maintain it and improve it and maintain the historical aspect of the property.
Correct. And we'll do our best to our ability, but
Just state your name and address, please. Thank you.
Jeff Mascott, 1506 West. Yeah, we're going to do our best to keep up that property, and we want to retain that property. As you can see through my emails, I was excited about that property back in November when we started the process. But I'm afraid of getting limitations put on us that we have to do certain things. And if that property isn't able to keep up to those promises, I don't want to be in default on anything. I don't want to get in any kind of trouble for anything, you know?
Mr. Chairman, I think the concern is that, as you know, when you get into historic registers and things like that, the burden on the property owners can be extreme and I think that's the fear that some of the requirements of historic values of the property it can get, I'm sure Commissioner Volpe could.
I can't wait to tell you what I know, Steve.
I think that's the fear. We want to do everything we can, but we want to also maintain, the right to fix things if they need to be fixed and just give us the ability to, I guess, have faith in Mr. Mazzacott that he'll do the right thing.
Mr. Chair, I do have some comments.
Hold on one second. Let's wait. Commissioner Selker, are you all set? Commissioner Volpe, go ahead.
So I think I don't want the wrong impression to be had of me. I know it was late last meeting. I can't tell you how much I value what you are bringing to us and how much it means to me as both a historian of this town and just in general a trained historic preservationist. Where I am seeing some issue in the language that you're presenting to me is that having a historic property is a hindrance in some kind of way because either us or the state will put some sort of limitations on you. And I want to tell you that there's actually a way to do it where you also get money from the state to help you preserve this. And I saw that Jenny from SHPO did mention that to you. And I can't tell you the smile on my face reading your email saying, when can I get my plaque? When can I do that? So I just want to tell you, because I did my master's thesis on this topic, that historic home rehabilitation tax credits are available to you with this property because of its state register listing, unless, well, I believe it's up to $30,000. It's a significant amount to like redo the siding or the roof. But the only problem with altering that one side of the house is that it will no longer have its same eligible historic standing. Once that back wall is altered to be attached, in the way that you have it presented to us today, it will no longer have the same designation as this historic structure. And I know that seems like a big cookie to bite off of, but there are many homes in our town that have added L's onto the back of the historic structure, so which is within what you are allowed to do to the structure, right? It's really not meant to restrict you. It's just meant to say, okay, here's a doorway in the back of the house, build the L, and then have your secondary structure, so that it's just not taking that whole back wall, and then you're still eligible to get those historic tax credits, whether you want them for this build or in 10 years when the roof goes, because I'll tell you in brief that this house is likely the house built by Samuel Woodruff himself from Farmington for his grandson, Jotham, and then Charles. And I have some of that research here for you. I'd love to talk offline about it, regardless of whatever you decide today, because in the end, I am still happy that you want to live in this house. I will never, but I do think that there may be another option just with the way that you have it planned right now, that either today, tomorrow, or in the future, you may want to take advantage of. Because if it's altered the way that it stands presently, it will no longer be eligible as a historic structure, other than in the spirit of you preserving it, which if that's all I can get, I'll take it. But I would hope that you'd maybe consider the L and then your building, like in town and other places, and I'd be happy to show you. They look like barns and they fit the structure. It's beautiful. Offices, homes. Once these things go, we don't get them back, you know, and New England, it's easy. We get to see all our historic structures, but we're one of the only places in the country that can do that. So I get it. It's a bunch of historical hub-jub. It's funny and what have you. But truly, if this is related to the Woodruff family, you have a precious gem. Whether you decide to go the historic tax credit way with SHPO or not, it is a gem, and I'm happy that you're doing it. So I don't want you to get the wrong impression of me. I'm not going to stop you. I just want you to know there's a way. There is a way. And Jenny would tell you that. We also have the Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation. They have a free program which will come out and tell you about the benefits of all of these things. They're circuit riders. They have better degrees than I do, and they know exactly what they're talking about in regards to all this stuff. But there is a way. Please. I think I babbled for 3 minutes straight.
I guess our fear is
Can you just speak into the mic, please? Just so it gets picked up.
I guess my only fear, our fear, is like what Jenny said in the emails, that once you accept federal or state funding to do anything, you're kind of on the hook, and then you're stuck with the property, and you got to follow through on whatever that project might be. And I'm just afraid.
Yeah.
You know, we still have to have, you know, it worked on some more, and I'm just afraid that we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. If we got to start raising the property, changing, you know, holy cow, you know,
I think
we don't
that's
have
like,
those kind of funds.
No, I'm sorry. And I think that that's actually the big spooky when it comes to doing any kind of historic preservation work, is that, and no offense to Steve, but you're told that this is like a huge undertaking and that, but I'll be honest, I've gone on like 10 site visits in my young career. I've helped with these kinds of credits in other towns. I've done state register and national register nominations in Waterbury, in places where it seems a lot harder. And it's never as hard as the owner thinks it's going to be. And you'd be surprised to see how much Jenny and SHPO and Preservation Connecticut, who are connected by legislature with SHPO, how much they want to help you. And you tell them that. And if you don't want to do it, you don't. The Secretary of the Interior standards are meant to be flexible so that you keep the structure. The idea is to preserve. Right? So at least in the state of Connecticut and what I've witnessed and the laws that we have to protect historic structures, it's not as much of a big spooky as I think maybe it's been presented. And I would encourage you to have that conversation with Jenny directly, right? Someone who does this every single day. You see other properties throughout the state get beautiful restoration work done. Other homes such as Norwich, Norwalk, you see it a lot with the shoreline houses, right? Because that can happen here in Southington too. It's just not common yet, but it is possible. So that was my reason for tabling, was just to find out more of it. But again, I would encourage you to have that conversation with them just to see if an L is an option. And then you still kind of get to reap the benefits of having the tax credit, because your property would be intact and it would still be eligible in that sense. Once that wall goes down though, it's going to be different.
Well, there's no wall coming down.
Or like once it's
Structure,
permanently.
it's just another structure just abutting it.
Yeah.
There's going to be a doorway going into the building.
That's the only thing that I'm concerned about, is that's beyond the integrity of the structure at that point, because it's altering the main building of it. That's why we usually recommend.
Doorway there.
I'm sorry?
There's already a doorway in the old building.
Yeah.
We're going to build the old new house up to that doorway. It was separate foundation and everything. And you go through the office, go right through that doorway, and you're in the new structure.
So explain it to me again, because I think we all need to know. Is there a wall coming down in the house to attach it? Because it looks like it's right up to it, like Commissioner Salka just asked. So explain it to me.
Let me back that up then. On the back of the old house, there was a porch that was built sagging and different woodwork. It was built probably in 19-something.
Gross.
And it's pretty much junk in the back.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was a shed that was also built right onto the line of the property. It's using the stone line, line
Yeah.
as a foundation. Okay. So we're just taking those two parts off. But the actual structure itself, the actual home itself, is what's staying intact. The walls, all four walls, everything's still there. Except there's a back door on the back of the old house that's just literally going to be coming into our hallway into the new house.
See, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Right, yep.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
it's
talking
just
about.
one doorway coming through.
I
and there's
didn't,
going to be
I didn't
separate
get that
wall
from
and
this and from what you had
Oh, I'm
asked.
sorry.
I didn't get that.
I didn't either till you just said that.
Till you just said
It's
it.
separate wall and
So we're good.
foundation.
So I
Yeah.
feel like I just said so much stuff and filled 5 balloons and we're talking the same
But it was
language.
fun to watch. No,
Oh, I appreciate it. No, I mean, this is, it's important to me. It's part of the reason why I'm on this commission is because, we do have a very historic town.
Yeah.
We do have historic structures in this town. So again, I commend you. This is wonderful that you're even having this conversation with me, however brief it is, because I feel like we're keeping it pretty brief,
Yeah.
if I say so myself. And, that we're just going to talk about it. Because again, Samuel Woodruff, what a guy. He didn't have to start South Parish, Southington.
Yeah.
He could have gone anywhere else, but instead he went to Pudding Hill, aka West Street.
Yeah.
It was called Pudding Hill, and we'll talk about it. Pudding, as in Indian pudding.
Good
And
to
we can
know.
talk about that later. But again, thank you so much for hearing me out. And I appreciate that it's not going to be attached and the wall is not coming down on that
No,
house.
two separate walls. Yeah.
So then, okay, another conversation. Go after the rehabilitation tax credit. Learn more about that because that could help you. I know maybe it seems like small to you now, but learn more about it because it is something.
Right. I just feel that commitment sometimes. Yeah.
I understand, but maybe it's not as big as you think.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I'll investigate it.
I think Commissioner Volpe is happy to sit down and talk to you about it if you're interested as
Yeah.
well.
Just, Mr. Chairman, just
Not here.
Less than a half an hour, that just did.
Yeah.
Got it.
Commissioner, you all set, Christina? Mm-hmm. Okay. Commissioner Salka.
just to clarify again, okay? A doorway's going to be in, you're going to put two buildings together, separate foundations, correct?
Correct.
Is the siding going to come off the back of the old structure?
No. Well, no. I'm hoping it's literally going to be abutting it. If you took off if you're going to take off the new house, that siding should still be there. Or if the carpenters feel that they have to, I don't know, but it's going to be two separate walls.
If they take the siding off and they butt, even though they have two walls,
Mm-hmm.
studs on both sides, does that still clarify or still quantify what you're talking about?
I'll be honest with you, that's something I would refer to SHPO about because that is getting to, if those
So they
clapboards are
take the
from
siding off and they just put them
1760.
together.
Yeah.
We'll put the
Different than
siding in the
elder you're
garage. We'll
talking.
say.
Correct. If there is such a hallway connecting the two buildings, however small it may be,
That's a different story.
that's a different story. As long as whatever you're digging doesn't impede the foundation or, rattle the building to such an extent in which it would be damaged, as far as my student debt has taught me, you'd be okay.
To add one other thing, we've gone further to show our intent into keeping it. The old structure roof slopes this way,
Like a salt box, yeah.
right? And the new house, the roof line is going to go this way. And I'm concerned, we don't want to put that weight of the new roof on the old house.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So we're looking at steel structure right now from a local steel builder in Southington that's going to try to engineer steel and cantilever and just come over the top of the old house and maybe just tie it in with flashing or whatever with minimal connection so that there's no pressure on the old house. We don't want that old house to collapse under the weight of this new roof.
And that's considered, right, maintaining your structure even further. So when you were to go for the historic tax home rehabilitation credit, explaining that you're trying to mitigate your new structure, like mitigate the old structure with your new structure in a way that's not invasive to the history of the house, is actually a plus for you and maybe getting that money. So that's fine. As long as nothing is seriously changed about the structure.
The only thing we will change on the structure is on that back shed part that we're taking off.
Yeah.
Going to add on years after.
Yeah.
We're going to try to save some of that clapboard to bring it on the front of the house because there are a few of those clapboards that are spongy and broken and so forth. So we're going to try to remove those and replace those clapboards just to.
And again, that's
spruce it
the
up.
nobody on the national or state register, whatever, tell you can't maintain it, right? You're maintaining it to keep it up. So that again is fine.
Okay.
But thanks.
You all set?
Yeah.
All set, Bob? Any other questions of the applicant? I have maybe three very quick ones. One is a point 4-5.1, which is the West Street Business Zone Regulation D, speaks to historical buildings in the district. We were foresight when we drafted these. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall have at their discretion the right to require an applicant to protect and promote such features during the site plan review process, which is what we're in right now. So that's just a point. My second question is, are there sidewalks there currently, or are you looking for a sidewalk waiver on this?
There are no sidewalks, and we would request a waiver. There's no sidewalks on West Pine Drive or West Street.
Be dangerous.
So you are looking for a waiver on that, which would be a separate motion from the commission. The last thing is under 4-5.1C. It speaks to access management and says that all sites, in order to reduce the amount of traffic on the main roadway, shall have access or cross easements for adjacent parcels. Can you show me where that is on this?
It's not shown on this plan. I believe that your requirement requests the easement to be 40 feet back from the street line. Is that correct? And 10 feet or 20 by 40. It would be in this area here.
Do you have it on the site plan,
No, I
Steve?
do not. I don't know if it'd be possible with the house. Getting, I don't know how you'd make it work. I guess that's my,
Could you do it behind the house?
this location here,
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, if it had to go,
Mhm.
and we can't do it into the house, obviously.
Yeah.
And it has to be more than 40 feet, which is where the existing structure is.
Yeah.
Steve, you've been here long enough. You're
I know,
familiar with our
it's
concern
a-
about the traffic on West Street. So I'm just asking,
my-
and to my fellow commissioners, I would ask that if we're going to make a motion to approve this application, that perhaps we include as part of that an access easement be provided. And, I'm not going to hold up the application, or I have no intention of holding up the application. That's something you'll work out with town staff. But I do think that it is something that we've been consistent, at least I've been consistent about. I think we as a group have been consistent about for the 5 years that I've been here, that we have required that. So I don't want to start making exceptions to that rule, which is very important.
I'm sure we can find a place for it.
Okay. And you are looking for a sidewalk waiver?
Yes.
Okay. Then to commission members, I'll ask for a motion. I will say with regards to sidewalk waivers, it's not something that I'm going to support. There's a reason why we ask for sidewalk requirements in this area of town, and that's because the pedestrian traffic in that area is dangerous. And we've all probably seen people walking to the Cava restaurant on West Street, parking about 500 yards away. And as you can imagine, people walking on the side of that road is not something that is, in my opinion anyways, safe. And I think to ask the applicant to add a sidewalk onto this site is not unreasonable. It is required, and a sidewalk easement requires,
Did Kava get a sidewalk easement
no,
or a sidewalk waiver? I don't see a sidewalk out there.
no, it's not, but when they develop the site, they have to put a sidewalk out there.
Mr.
It actually
It's
did come,
developed.
it did come up a couple of years ago. I do remember it. One second. So, and in order for a sidewalk waiver to be provided, it does require a supermajority because it is a deviation from our regulations. So that would require out of the 6 people to be here tonight, that 4 of us would have to vote in favor. No. Is it 4? 4 of us would have to vote in favor of that sidewalk waiver. Mr. Mascot, did you have something you wanted to add?
I guess my concern is if you're concerned about foot traffic, people coming out of West Pine, from that neighborhood, walking to Cava, I don't know that I want to put a sidewalk in front of our property to encourage them to walk down our sidewalk just to find out that the sidewalk ends. Now go back out in the street and walk the rest of the way.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but
I mean, we'll gladly put
the
it
idea when
in.
the regulation was drafted is that slowly but surely we will build upon these sidewalks, and before too long, hopefully, we'll have a full sidewalk going down West Street. It's not about your property. It's not about you. It's about the area of town where that is. West Street is historically not a safe area. And I, for one, I've never approved, or maybe on one occasion, I've approved the sidewalk waiver, but I don't traditionally back that. So I'm just saying, I'm not in favor of a sidewalk waiver on this.
Maybe I don't understand waiver and all, but is it possible to say, when that time comes and you're ready to put other sidewalks in, hey, I'll join the crowd and all us neighbors get together, put brand new sidewalks in?
No, Mr. Mazzacata, it's your responsibility as a landowner, if you're going to develop your property, that you have to include a sidewalk. That's what our regulations read. They're clear.
Yeah.
You know, it's not ambiguous. It's very clear that that's a requirement. Your engineer knew it's a requirement. He's been before us on West Street before. And I'm just saying, I'm one of 6 up here today, one of 7 that sit up here normally. I'm not going to approve a sidewalk waiver. Whatever the other commissioners want to do is up to them.
Would it be reasonable to ask for a sidewalk waiver on West Pine in that neighborhood where it's not connecting to any other sidewalk down the street?
Which will never be developed. You're never going to get a sidewalk on West Pine.
Well, that's up to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, this was a residential zoned property. This commission decided to change it to a business zoned property, and that's one of the reasons that we're here today.
Yep.
You know, I understand the position of sidewalks and that you're always looking to extend sidewalks. However, I think sometimes, hopefully, the commission members will take a look at this, and I'm sure we're all familiar with this. This is not an area where people are walking in front of this property. I don't think comparing this to Cava is a good comparison. The problem with Cava was a remote parking lot that was a parcel away from Cava, and people were walking on the shoulder in the winter to get to the restaurant. They've since improved their site. They put in a new parking lot. People don't have to walk on a sidewalk to get from their parking lot to their building. You have a church across the street without any sidewalks. You have I just don't see the need. And I think that, you know, the regulation allows this commission to waiver sidewalks based on certain things. And you know, there's a percentage requirement of development. I mean, we could argue that you know, within 2,000 feet of this site in either direction is I know there's some undeveloped property to our north, but generally West Street is developed in this area. And that would allow us to request the waiver and will allow this commission to grant us a waiver. I think Mr. Mazzacat's request maybe to give us the waiver on West Pines Drive and put the sidewalks in on West Street resolves concerns of this commission, and also his concerns of maintaining a sidewalk that connects to nothing, that connects to West Pines Drive, that was constructed in an R40 zone, which requires sidewalks, and a waiver was granted on this street, and there are no sidewalks on West Pines Drive here. So I think I would just ask you, I know Commissioner Hammersley, you've already stated your position, but hopefully the other commission members will take it into consideration.
Okay.
I think there's no intent to just leave sidewalks off the plan. I think that, if I'm going to be honest with you, when I started this, I'm thinking house and I'm thinking residential in a home occupation, and I'm not thinking sidewalks. That was the reason that the sidewalks aren't on the plan. It wasn't to avoid anything.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Volpe?
Yeah, I kind of, in a way, I agree. I almost think having a small section of sidewalk or sidewalks in this section of West Street, you know, I am the first person to tell you I'm a proponent of walking and, you know, some more active use of land in that way. But I get a little nervous that if there's a sidewalk, people will be encouraged to walk on this street. And this is a very dangerous intersection, you know, that's already quite troublesome right there. So I agree, however, that sidewalks should be required on the West Pine side, since that's more people do. I see people come out of there all the time. However, I would love to hear my fellow commissioners, because I hear Chair Hammersley and his concerns. I do see the benefit too in connecting future development sidewalks just to have it. But for this specific area, I see what Steve's saying. It's a little dangerous right there. I personally would never walk on that sidewalk because it's a little scary. Just things are whizzing by. That's all I have.
Any others? Commissioner Calls.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I live in a neighborhood, I'll give you my personal experience. I live in a neighborhood that was built, my house is built 1890 something, and I don't have a sidewalk on either facade of Mill Street or Rourke Avenue. When I take my dog around the block, I walk on the street. And when I get to Mill Street, I have to jump, into the wet grass in the morning and get my shoes wet. And I don't appreciate that very much. However, in this situation, I'm looking at, like I always do, I'm looking at the GIS and I'm trying to determine how far away is the closest sidewalk and what it takes to get there. And I'm looking at from your parcel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parcels to the Sikh temple, which crosses probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 residential properties. And so, listen, I want sidewalks. I'm not gonna make any bones about that. And my issue here, and I think the chair and I are 100% on the same line where it's important to have them. Where I think we differ is that what's the practicality of, I think I measured out 145 feet of sidewalk to goes nowhere, the bridge to nowhere, as they say. Whereas, across the street, there's, several religious structures, and I believe there's sidewalks there or not, and that's hard to tell. But those buildings were certainly constructed much later in our history, and I don't think that there are sidewalks there. And of any place, connecting these areas for pedestrian traffic would be the optimal thing. What I would hope is that, there might be an incentive in the future to have property owners work together, like the applicant said, to cumulatively put this together as a project. To try to do this piecemeal would take all these people to sell and then redevelop in a different use than what they're already doing. And it would take forever. And it almost seems like kind of a hardship that we're putting on this applicant, where, like I said, I don't like getting my feet wet when I have to walk the dog in the morning, but I don't know if the good outweighs the challenge that we're setting up, and that's kind of where I'm falling on the sidewalk waiver piece. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion from commission members? I'll just say the way that it works is piecemeal. It always works that way. It's worked that way on Queen Street. It's worked that way on North Center Street. It's worked that way on West Street. We did an application on Hidden Valley not too long ago, and that required a sidewalk. And I believe a sidewalk waiver was requested. That was denied, not because it was an inconvenience to the landowner. That's not what anybody, at least I'm not trying to do it. And I think I speak for everybody up here. No one's trying to do that. What we're trying to do is to make West Street as safe a corridor as possible. And if that means, per the regulation, that they have to put a sidewalk in as they develop the property, then that's what the regulation says. And I believe in our regulations. That regulation was passed back in 2013 by some people that I think aren't here any longer, but I think that they were foresight in the way that they developed that. And, that's it. Peter.
For that 4-59, sidewalks are required along West Street frontage. Period. All sidewalks can be constructed town of Sunnyvale standards, etc. Pedestrian and bicycle accommodations are required to interconnect to existing or future walkways on abutting properties or development areas, etc. So it was put there for that reason, and I'm in agreement with everything that's been said thus far. I think adherence to this, particularly on that piece of Southington, if we start granting exceptions, it won't happen. And so to set a precedent, because I'm always about I have a thing about setting a precedence.
Sorry.
That I don't, with an existing reg, if I have an existing reg, like that's what it's there for. And so we did it, on some things. And so I think I'm inclined, to go with the chair on this one based upon what the reg said and that it is a dangerous street and you got to start somewhere with it. I think so. I think I'm leaning more that way, but I totally understand the point and the burden and it's not there now and this, but you got to start somewhere. I think.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I just
Steve,
I
go
don't-
ahead.
I don't believe you're setting a precedence. Your regulations permit waivers of sidewalks, so that's not. But the other thing I just want to point out is that the West Street Business Zone is designed for much, much larger parcels than this. This commission designed West Street Business Zone for 4-acre minimum parcels with interconnected driveways and sidewalks and a whole list of features that we really can't, even if we wanted to, could not address on this parcel. This was kind of the last piece at the very south end of the West Street Business Zone. It probably should have been left residential, to be honest with you, but it was included. It was a residential home technically on a corner of a residential street, and it was included in the West Street Business Zone. So I understand the regulation now. We have to live with it. I guess my request to the commission would be then if the regulation says we have to have them on West Street for the zone, then we would still request the waiver on West Pines Drive.
So is it the commission's decision on how do you want to pursue this? So you can pursue it, I think, the way I look at it, 3 different ways. You can give an outright waiver on any sidewalk requirement. You can give a waiver on West Pine for a sidewalk, or you could make a motion not to provide a waiver. Either way, in order to get a waiver, because it deviates from the regulation, there are 4 votes required in order for that to pass or to be part of the approval of the application if we are to approve the application. So let's start with the sidewalk waiver.
Could I suggest, Mr. Chair, though, shouldn't we start with approval of the site and then sidewalk after?
I don't.
I don't know that it makes a difference really, Peter.
Because then if
Because if you approve the site, then you're approving what is up there, which doesn't have a
you want to do
sidewalk on it.
sidewalk, okay.
So what I'm
Okay,
saying is
got
that
it.
you're
I'm with
not
you.
approving the sidewalk by not approving a
Got it,
sidewalk.
got it. I'm with you.
Okay. So what do you all want to do?
Mr. Chair, could you please give us our 3 options again?
You can provide an outright sidewalk waiver on the entire property. That would be West Street and West Pine.
No sidewalk.
You could provide a sidewalk waiver on West Pine and not on West Street, or you could provide a sidewalk waiver on West Street and not West Pine.
I'm leaning more towards the third personally.
Okay, well, we need a motion, so someone's got to make a motion.
More discuss. So Christina, so you're leaning toward a sidewalk on West Pine, not on West Street.
Yeah, and
I was like the opposite. I was like, have it on West Street because that's what the regs say and not on West Pine. That's where I was.
I feel like the people of West Pine will use it, and so then it's actually like safer for those people.
Yeah. I was more along West Street because that's what the West Street reg said.
Yeah.
And not on there. So I'm okay on not one because not circulating the whole property. I get that.
Yeah.
But if I had connectivity, which is kind of the point of the thing, then I'm more leaning toward having a sidewalk on West Street and not on West Pine, because the point of the sidewalk was interconnecting those parcels along West Street. That was the point of West Street Business
Yeah.
Road rather than tributaries going into it.
Yeah. And I
So
do
that's
get
where I
that.
was.
I do get that. I also just thinking about the future development, like we were all talking about, like some of these bigger parcels and like what's going to go there. Like I do think sidewalks there are going to be important. I just don't know how much in front of this one by the intersection really should be walked on. So I want to hear all of your, don't put it on me, please.
No.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Wolowski.
if the goal is to long-term have sidewalks everywhere as parcels come across, and it's certainly not new to us seeing properties on West Street, I mean, I think consistency is important, that if we're going to encourage sidewalks in future development, future is now, right?
Yeah, you either want a sidewalk or you don't want a sidewalk in
And if
my
we
mind.
start
I mean,
picking and choosing who gets them and versus who doesn't, then I think that we're doing ourselves a disservice.
I wouldn't disagree with that, Steve.
Can I have one final statement?
Steve Judas, if you have something new to add, you're not part of the debate here, but if you have something new to add that hasn't been said,
I just want
please
to
do.
clarify that West Pines Drive is 100% developed for 2,000 feet. You will never see sidewalks on the rest of West Pines Drive.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
So, and that was the reason I made the request to modify our waiver to just do sidewalks, put sidewalks on West Street and ask for a waiver. No disrespect, Mr.
That's
Volpe.
okay.
Just have a waiver of sidewalks onEst Pines Drive because there will be no
Okay.
connectability on West Pines Drive.
So let me ask
So
you
again,
this,
it's like what
Steve. So
just
maybe
happened
that
earlier.
clarifies things, right? So maybe, is it the applicant's intent to seek a sidewalk waiver on West Pines only?
West Pines only.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I misunderstood. I don't know.
So the applicant requested a waiver on sidewalks for sidewalk requirement on West Pine,
Yes,
All right.
we are proposing to construct sidewalks on West Street.
on West Street is, okay.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Commissioner Salka makes a motion, and this again is for a waiver of sidewalks on West Pine. Commissioner Salka, do we have a second?
I will second that.
Santago with a second. Is there any further discussion?
No, I feel better for the
Okay.
clarity thing.
So,
You know, I haven't been before you guys in a while, so maybe
yeah.
my tongue isn't working
Yeah.
as well. I
So-
apologize.
so I'll just-
That
I'll
was-
just-
that was a waste of 10 minutes.
That was my third option.
So I'll just remind everybody that they need 4 votes in order for this to take effect. So Mary Ellen, can you call the roll, please?
Volpe,
Yes.
Lasky,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Coles,
Alternate to Commissioner Coles, yes.
oh, I can't get it.
All of us say yes.
Vice Chair Salka,
Yes.
and Chair Hammer.
Hammersley's a no. Motion passes 5-1. Okay, so you got a waiver on West Pine. I'm just trying to be consistent, folks. That's all.
I got confused.
Threw me off on that one.
It's just my thing. I knew where it was going anyway, so it's okay. So now we have before us an application, and as I said earlier, I would just ask the commission, whoever makes the motion, to consider the requirement that access easement be provided in working with town staff on the plan. But let's hear if there's a motion. Oh, Mary Ellen?
Added the sightline easement as well.
Sightline easement as well. A request has been made for a site. So perhaps the motion could be that they work with town staff to refine the plans in conformity with the regulations. I'm making it up a little bit. Anyway, so what's the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, will make a motion that we approve SPR 1827 with the stipulation that we approve the easement to this property to work out with the town planner. And I guess that's it.
Okay. Mary Ellen, does that satisfy what you're looking for? Yeah. Jim, you're clear?
Yep, thank
Yeah.
you.
Mr. Chair.
Do we have a second?
Oh.
Let's have a second before we open up discussion. Do we have a second on Commissioner Selka's motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Santago with a second. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Volpe?
I was hoping to offer an alternative motion, if I may discuss. I wanted to stipulate that under 4-05.1D, historical and other natural features, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall have at their discretion the right to require an applicant to protect and promote. I would say under that, that the structure is as per discussed tonight, that wall stay in the hallway. I don't want to read that moment, but you know what I'm saying? We would have to say it, but Commissioner Salka, that's kind of what I was hoping for under 4-05.1 to kind of stipulate that per the conversation we had tonight, that they work with the town planning and engineering department to ensure that they do not alter that fourth wall and stick to what was presented to us tonight.
Well, I guess my question by alternating the motion, everything that was said is on the record already of stating what he is or is not going to do. So by putting a stipulation, I'm not sure we need a stipulation or an alternate
record,
motion.
right?
I mean, maybe more specifically stipulating that that wall stays intact, and that the structure remains intact in that sense, like removing everything that you said and doing exactly what you said, just stipulating it as an insurance since we don't have historic preservation regulations in that sense. Unless you think that that plan is not going to happen.
I more have a fundamental issue with this is the Planning and Zoning Commission, not the Structural Architectural Review Commission. So that, I just think it's a slippery path. That's the only, you guys.
But I mean, as
you
part
want,
of what we discussed.
Yeah, I
as part
agree,
of the
and that-
motion is that since it's on the state registry,
Right.
not on the federal registry, and he's not taking any state or federal money, the homeowner can do pretty much what he wants to do with the property anyway. And he's already stated as for the record of what he's intended to do, which I think is appropriate, and I think it's okay with me. I'd rather not add that stipulation into the motion.
I'm just afraid of where we may go from here. That's all. So I don't.
Commissioner Salka, am I understanding you correctly that you feel that it's a part of public record already, that that's the intent is to not remove that wall, and therefore you don't see the need to underscore that as part of the motion? Is that okay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Well, by virtue of my question, it's my understanding as well that that is part of the intent as stated by the applicant, that there's no intent to remove that wall.
There
And
is
if
none.
that
And
wall
there are
were to be
plans. We
removed,
have-
then that would require another visit to us.
Right, because it'd be going against what has been stated on the record.
Mary Ellen, is that clear? Yeah?
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Volpe here.
Commissioner Volpe,
Just a
this-
question for clarification. So if the site plan is revised and the wall does end up being removed, they will have to come before the commission and we will discuss it again. I hear your word, Mr. M. You said, you know, I believe what you're saying. Steve, I hear you, even though it sounds a little like this right now. But I'm just saying, like, if that does occur, they'll have to come back to us and then we can discuss it there, right, Mary Ellen? Okay, so then, Commissioner Salka, I'm comfortable with the motion that you've made at that point, and I appreciate the discussion.
Yeah.
Hopefully it didn't take.
Any further discussion on this?
No.
Mary Ellen, can you call the roll, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Coles, yes.
Yes and yes.
It's okay.
Commissioner Pete?
All right.
It's 2 votes.
Yes.
Hammersley's a yes. Motion passes 6-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your patience.
We appreciate yours.
Item 8. I think we're on 8F. Sorry, I lost my place. Nazada Realty of Connecticut LLC site plan modification application for a proposed 5,000 square foot addition to existing building property located at 120 Industrial Zone in I-1 Zone, SPR 1552.3. Seb. So this is a modification of the previously approved site plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Seb Bovino, planner with Kratzer Jones and Associates, representing the applicant. On the screen here, we have the site plan. To the right is Industrial Drive, and the property goes from the east to the west. It is zone industrial, served by public water and public sewer. There's an existing building on the site, which is 5,184 square feet. The existing building is here. There's a 4,800 square foot addition to the west of the existing building, so we're extending the parking lot. We're relocating the dumpster area. We're rebuilding the concrete pad. We are proposing to put trees around the dumpster area. There's roof water that's going to be intercepted and taken underground for groundwater storage. There's some drainage improvement proposed. The building is going to look the same as the existing building that's there today. A number of parking spaces meets the regulations. If there's any questions at this time, I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions for members of the commission to the applicant?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Coles.
Thanks for the application. So I'm looking directly behind this property now that we're moving another structure back there and adding some parking and things like that. There are 2 residential structures on Elizabeth Drive. Are you making any modifications to the site that would block or defer line of sight from the back property? Are you installing a fence? Are you increasing vegetation, anything like that?
We preserve in the 35-foot buffer that's required, and there's a note on the plan. If there's any gaps, we will add additional landscaping to cover those areas.
And then the dumpster that's also going to be in that rear area, is it going to be enclosed?
There's going to be a gate, be a chain link fence or wood fence around it, and there'll be arborvitae planted next to the dumpster. That dumpster is not in the 35-foot buffer.
What kind of business is this?
This is Mazzati Electric Company. It's an electric contractor.
So we don't anticipate any rotting, perishable things in that dumpster that could make a smell.
No, it's
Good thing to know.
byproduct of the electrical contracting business or plumbing business. I think he rented a space here to a plumber or something.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other questions for members of the commission? Sevi, all set?
All set.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion on item 8F.
Mr. Chair, make a motion, we approve SPR 1552.3.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that one.
Commissioner Coles with a second. Is there any further discussion? Mary Ellen, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Volpe, yes.
Alternate Commissioner Coles, yes.
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 Member Zuzzi, yes. Motion passes 6-0.
You forgot to call Steve.
Oh,
I thought she was going alphabetical from.
Steve.
Yes.
Okay. Now the motion passes 6-0. Congratulations. Moving on to item 8G, Queen Street Group LLC, site plan modification application, proposed drive-through at an existing restaurant coffee shop property located at 613 Queen Street in a B zone, SPR 1828.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Seth Vobino, planning with Cratchit Johnson Associates. On the screen here for orientation purposes, to the west, we have a Queen Street. There's a signal at this point, and there's a major driveway that serves not only the Starbucks, but serves Danny's and other facilities in this area. There's an existing building on the site, and it's obviously functioning as a Starbucks. Currently, you go up the driveway east from Queen Street, proceed to this location and pull in, and then you go to the parking lot in front of the building and proceed to enter the facility and purchase products. The proposal in front of you is to add a lane further east. There'll be a one-way lane parallel to the existing one, but separated by a landscaped area. And there'll be a one-way about 200 feet from this location to this point where there's a stop sign, stop bar, and a sign indicating do not block intersection. So you proceeding from this driveway, go down at this location, you have three choices. Either you go across the intersection and go park to enter the facility. You change your mind, you don't want to do anything here, you just proceed to the bypass lane, which is right there, and go out again and come back to Queen Street, or you go to the drive-through lane and go to the pickup window. And there's about 7 cars from this point to the pickup window. Probably there is about 14 cars from here to here, stacking capability. It's served by Public Water and Sewer. We're adding some landscaping along the I-84 shoulder, and in the there's a landscaped area between the 2 lanes. We're adding a tree in the front on Queen Street here. Based on the regulation, every 50 feet we need to add one. There's an existing one. We add another one there. The dumpster will be relocated from where it's located to in front of the employees' parking. We received comments, we responded to them, revised the maps according to what they were looking for, and at this point, if you have any questions, be glad to answer.
Okay. Any questions to the applicant? Commissioner Wolowski.
So essentially, it's going to be like a cul-de-sac, correct? It's no exit on Queen Street. It's going to be in by the Motel 6.
This is the entrance to the Motel 6, is to Danny's and to our
Yeah.
facility here. So now you're going to go past our intersection here. This is going to become a one-way.
Okay.
Then you go past that, the new curb cut will be here. You proceed up to here, and you have the choices outlined. You could go and park, you could go out, or you can proceed to the pickup window.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any- Commissioner Salka?
Where is the employee parking lot again, Zeb?
There's employed 3 spots right here, this location, and the client's parking are up front.
3
like
spots?
3 spots, yes. That's what we label employee parking, but they can park, if there is additional employees, they can park in this location too.
And where do they park now?
They park there, that's employee parking, and they park in the front over here.
Commissioner Salka? You all set for now?
I'm all set for now.
Commissioner Coles?
So this is a very busy map. So I'm trying to figure out when there's a backup in the drive-through, how anybody is to access the site.
Well, we have the appropriate stacking. We have 14 cars from here to this intersection. There's a stop sign with a sign indicating do not block the driveway. If you intend to go to the drive-through and it's occupied, then you stay there until that moves and goes out. And all the stacking occurs within the site. It's not occurring on Queen Street or at this driveway.
I guess, and we just had an application that kind of came before us last week, I think, for the 7-Eleven. There's no bypass to get around that line. So if at peak time, there are even 2 cars that are stacked in that, then if somebody wants to go in and use the dine-in option, they can't get to a parking spot. And unless I'm missing something, but I don't think you can't drive past those cars, right?
You cannot do what?
You can't, there's no way to get around the stacking in the driveway if those vehicles are, I don't know,
If they're all queued up, in other words, they would be blocking the access to the parkway.
yeah.
That would try to say.
Someone had
Thank
an
you.
emergency, no way is he going to get out of that, or she going to get out of that line. That's stacking. Once you're in.
Until you get to
committed
this
going
location.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you get to, and I'll jump on exactly the direction you're going with this, no pun intended, that if there was a stack of lines in there and somebody's car broke down in that line, you can't get in. There's no second access into there. There's no way around those vehicles.
Until you have your way, the possibility to get around once you get to this location and the traffic starts moving, you have 2 lanes here, one for the drive-through and one for the bypass. But we do not have 2 lanes in the initial approach, which is about 14 cars.
And in that is my concern, is that there's
And
no 2
that's-
lanes in that initial
but
approach.
we went out of our way here to get property from the state, and we cannot get any more property. The grade climbs towards 84. We already at the toe of slope, and it's a lot better than what it is now. Right now, there's no way. You come in, you park, and there's no other place that you can go. Right? At least now you move forward here, and you have a long stacking before you get to the pickup window.
But we're changing the dynamic of what's going to be here. We're going from a dine-in, and I'm not going to argue with it. It's not a beautiful parking lot now, but it's a tough space. But it's only one use. It's only the use of
And
the
it's going to be one
dine-in.
use.
Now not only are we going to serve Southington residents, but we're going to be serving people jumping in and off on the highway to run in, grab their coffee, and scoot. Those are my concerns. Please.
One second, Peter, just real quick. Could you show me where the menu board is on that drive-through?
Menu board is going to be right here, right on the first car, between first and second car right here, and then you move to the pickup window. There's about 7 cars.
So you got, to Caleb's point, you got cars coming in here, and you got 2 lanes going out. So if a car comes in here, and this is stacked, let's say 5 deep, and someone wants to go in to get to the parking over here,
They have to wait.
they'd have to wait in
They
that
have
line.
to wait until the line moves.
Commissioner Santago?
Yeah, so there's that, and also, I mean, when I saw this originally, I was like, I didn't think there was that much room over there. I thought that land was tight, regards to this, but then you said you got land from the state, which now kind of makes sense, because like, how in the world can they do that with the existing property?
Yeah, we got 20 some feet from the state.
If indeed, let me ask you this, Seth. So you're in the parking lot, okay? Yep, right where your dot is. And you got to go toward your thing. Was there any consideration to have an exit only curb cut from that parking lot? Now, you can't go left, but at least you can go right to get out of there.
We actually, the client wanted me to have a curb cut right here.
Right, exactly right.
And I suggested not to because I was afraid to back up into Queen Street.
But you're getting out of there versus in, like an exit only type.
Yeah, if it's just the way out, then we could do that. And it will take.
I'm just trying to. Yeah,
Will,
I get it.
will be no left turn.
Right.
Will be no left turn, and we can take a right and then go up here by the hotel and come back out.
Personally, Mr. Chair, I'd like to table this because I know for me, I'd kind of like to go. I mean, I've been to Starbucks. I actually frequent the other establishment versus this place, but because with D.
Cheaper.
The one that begins with D.
America runs on it.
But the one that America runs.
I love all businesses.
I love all businesses. They're all great. We
That's
love
right.
it.
Okay, but I appreciate that you love the D.
We love Sid, but I'm my brother.
Peter,
Love coffee.
But I kind of like to go over there because just to see the property itself rendering a decision. And I'm with my fellow commissioners about the traffic flow. I don't see how this works myself.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Sure.
yeah, Commissioner Salka.
2 questions, Seb. The first one is how many cars will fit in that stack from the pickup window to the drive to the entrance? How many? I can't count because there's
From the pickup window to the point where you order.
no. From the time you drive in, total stacking.
Okay, total stacking you'll have from the initial entry here at the driveway about
Right, all the way down and back.
14 to the stop sign. Then you leave room here. We have the stop signs, stop bar to allow people to maneuver. If you see somebody coming this way, you allow that person to go out. They want to go out, you'll allow them to move. So you have 14 cars to here, and then when you move forward from this point to the pickup window, about 7 cars. So you have a total of 21 cars.
And also, and that's assuming that people are going to let somebody get out or cross over. But on the parking in the front, on I think it's parking space number 1 or whatever you have there at the curb. Typically, cars will drive in and then they have to back out, and they're going to back out into that stack.
Yeah, that's why we put that sign, do not interrupt, do not block the intersection. So if you see that individual parked there, it has to back up, you wait until that individual
I
backs
can
up.
guarantee you there's going to be people backing into cars into that.
No.
If you don't have a backup mirror or a newer car, there's going to be some accidents there. I just don't see this working.
You all set for now,
It's
Commissioner?
within a parking lot, which happens everywhere. You have cars backing up, you shop right, you got cars double loaded, and you back out, you better watch, because if there's somebody pulling out, you hit them. So there's a potential for conflict everywhere.
Everywhere.
But the suggestion that Sandago made, Mr. Sandago, to have a one-way out, it's something that we can, you can stipulate if you want.
Okay. Commissioner Volpe, bring us home here.
I agree.
We're going to table this one, by the way. so-
Yeah, I agree to table it. I go here at least 3 times a week because I'm a coffee person. And it's a death trap. I'm a little nervous that this would be more of a death trap. I mean, you go around the corner as it is right now with your car, and you got to do how we do it in Italy. You got to beep your horn just to make sure somebody knows you're coming around the corner. You know, that's what I do at least. But like, I agree as well that if we were to approve it, that we would need that right turnout, and that because I just think there has to be another escape route, and nobody's going to get their coffee and wants to sit in that traffic and be trapped and things like that. Like it's just like the America Runs On It place. You know, you want to get in, you want to get out. I'm a little nervous of that congestion there. So if there is another way to get out, at least to the light, have your escape route, especially if you're the kind of person who likes to still use that establishment as it has been, where you want to hop out of your car, run in and get it, something like that, you know?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that,
But I agree to table it for now so everyone can explore.
Okay, so we have
this
a
establishment.
request to table. Is there any objection to tabling this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to table this, thanks. Moving on to 8H, renewal of existing registration for regulated activities in aquifer protection areas, 960 Meriden Waterbury Turnpike. Jim, is this you on this one? Okay. Mary Ellen, is this you?
Yeah, it's just the basic 5-year renewal for the protection approval.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this? Can we just do a voice vote on this one, Mary Ellen? Yeah? So can we get a motion here?
Mr. Chair, make a motion, we approve item H on the agenda.
Commissioner Solka?
I'll
Need a
second.
motion second. Commissioner Volpe? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 8I, requests for mandatory 824 referral for the abandonment of Whitman Road, MR 563. Mary Ellen, you want to talk about this?
Sportsman Club.
Sportsman Club, they requested to be abandoned. It was reviewed by planning staff, engineering staff, and by the town council and approved.
Okay, so we have a referral from the town council on this. That's what an 824 is. Is there any discussion on this?
I think the letter from the town manager on this was pretty self-explanatory, and it's supported by the council and the town manager.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve item I on the agenda,
Commissioner
MR 563.
Soka with a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Santiago with a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mary Ellen, do we need a roll call on this one? Voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 9, administrative items. Mary Ellen, we had a brief conversation about legislative stuff. I think what I talked to Mary Ellen about, Bob Solka and I talked to Mary Ellen about with regards to the public act, the zoning public act that passed, is that she's going to draft some language for us on opting out of the requirements for parking in accessory buildings. And we'll take that up in a public hearing format sometime in October, I believe.
Yeah, we can set the public hearing, and then once you set the public hearing, you go through that, and then probably your discussion during that you'll call out your reasons for it, and then
Right. So that's item 9. Is there any other items, administrative items from staff, commission members? Legislative updates, that pretty much was what it was, right? So, okay. No, I think it just drafts something. I don't see an objection unless I see an objection from someone up here. Just draft something along the lines of what we talked about, what I just mentioned. And then we'll take it up in a public hearing and we'll go from there. All right? Item 11, items to be scheduled for a public hearing. Yep, we got one on there. Cottage food industry. We've been down that road before, so we got another one coming up. Item 12, we got a new application.
Ion Bank, wow.
Ion Bank, and it's across the street from Dunkin' Donuts on North Center. North Center, right? North Main, sorry.
North Main.
Dunkin' Donuts on North. Oh,
Yeah, the Dunkin' Donuts with the notorious drive-through.
like the Ronaldos?
Just to the other side of that,
R.I.P.
I believe. I don't think it's a Ronaldo's property.
Oh, really? Because that's
Yeah.
that fire structure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
yeah, I know.
right, right.
Total eyesore when we get
Terrible, yeah.
Dunkies in the morning.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's there. Anything else, Mary Ellen?
No, they did get the wetlands approval, last night for their.
Okay.
Great.
Any further discussion from commission members? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion from Commissioner Salka. Do we have a second?
Second.
Nice.
There we go. I'll give it to Wolowski, I guess. Jump ball.
Since they
He's-
didn't call
he's a
him on
little
the last
taller.
one.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Adjourned.
Before 9, rock on.
I have this weird thing where
Cool.
every
Cool.
time someone
Can't
says
believe
being
it.
opposed,
A beautiful.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
I don't know why.
Beautiful thing.
Would have been.
Well done.
He must say nay. He must say yay.